All right, so word problems. So we're going to look at these word problems that are on that page that I just gave you. I know it doesn't have a place for your name, so just put your name somewhere up at the top. So when we turn this in as a homework assignment, uh, don't forget to do that. So we're going to start with just number one there, and I'm going to do some of the. We're going to do some of these together, and then the rest of them I'm going to leave for you to do on your own. So when you're setting up equations to solve word problems, one of the important things to do is to define your variable and know what it means. So one of the things that we're going to do is we're going to write a statement that tells us what the variable is and what it stands for. So the first one says the product of 7 and a number increased by 3 is equal to twice the number subtracted from 39. Find the number. So I'm going to say X is the number. I'm just going to pick variable X. That's pretty generic and boring, but that's the way that I'm going to roll that one. You pick whatever letter you want to. Try to avoid using the letter O because it looks like a 0, and avoid using the letter I because it has another meaning that we'll use later on. So I is not typically used as a variable, but pretty much any other letter is fair game. So I'm gonna use X here to represent that number, and I'm gonna try to interpret the sentences here and decide how to set up an equation. So let's read that first statement. The product of 7 and a number. What's a product? Multiplication. So the product of 7 and a number would be 7 times X, right? And then increased by 3 plus 3. And then they're nice to us and they use the words is equal to. So that means put an equals mark. It's really easy. Twice the number. Okay, what's twice the number? 2x, because we're doubling that number, twice that number. So 2 times x subtracted from 39. Okay, so there's where we maybe we got a little too fast at that. Subtracted from 39 is going to be 39 minus 2x, not 2x minus 39. And that's where most people, if you get in a hurry, sometimes you put that in the wrong order, and it really changes the problem a whole lot. So be careful about that. And now, once we get the equation set up, we can do everything we already know how to do in order to solve that equation. So what would we do to solve that? Add the 2x, and then what are we going to do besides that? Yeah, and we'll minus the 3. I'm just going to do that all in one step there. Give me 9x is equal to 36. And then divide by 9. And the answer is 4. So setting up that equation. Reading the statement. So keywords were product. If you see the word sum, what is that? Difference. Quotient. Squared. Squared would be an exponent, right, of a 2. So if it says a number squared, that would be x to the second power. A number cubed would be to what power? To the third power. Right? And you don't get any bigger than that in this little set. Out of that, if you see square root, I don't think that any of these are going to be doing that. We'll get into that later on. But those key words of product, sum, difference, quotient, all of those things are fair game for that. So you'll notice that number 2 is very similar to number 1. So the idea is that I'm going to do number 1. Number 2 is kind of similar to that. Let's look at number 3. It gets a little bit tougher. We're going to skip down to number 3 there. One number is 9 more than twice another number. If the sum of the numbers is 129, find both numbers. Okay, so one number is 9 more than twice another number. Okay. So let's let x be the number. That's the first thing. And I'm just picking x just because that's the one I always pick. There's really no reason. And then one number is 9 more than twice another number. So if this is the first number, then the second number would be 9 more than twice that number. What's 9 more than twice that number? How can we write that? That's 9 more is twice that number. Be 2x plus 9, wouldn't it? Okay. And I'm going to use that statement as the other number. And then the next sentence says what about those two numbers? A sum of 129. So what's that mean I'm going to do with these two things? Sum is add x plus 2x plus 9 is 129. So we're going to set up that equation to do. That one's kind of worded weird, strangely a little bit. But the setup, once you get the equation set up, it's really not that bad. So you could subtract 9. I'm going to go ahead and multiply or get our like terms together, and then I'll subtract the 9. It doesn't matter which order you do that. So that'd be 120. And divide by 3. So x is 40. That's one of the numbers. How do I get the other? It said find both numbers. Yeah, so if we plug that in to the 2x plus 9, that's going to give us 89. So the two numbers are 40 and 89. It doesn't matter what order you write those in, though. Let's do the smallest first. So that was 4 is kind of similar. Number 5, we get into some geometric stuff here with the talking about shapes here. So let's look at number 5. The length of a rectangle is 1 more than 4 times its width if the perimeter of the rectangle is 62 meters. So it's talking about a rectangle. So I'm just going to draw myself a rectangle, and I'm going to put my things on that, because to me, if it's talking about a shape, if I see that shape, it might help me understand what's going on here. So it says the length of the rectangle is 1 more than 4 times its width. So do we know the width? No. So I'm just going to call that W for width, because I don't know that. And then it says the length, which would be the long side, is 1 more than 4 times its width. So how do I write that? Four times what? Well, 4 times the width, right? So 4W plus 1 there. So I'm going to use that same variable out of that. Now, the next line says the perimeter of the rectangle. So what is perimeter? Adding all the sides. So how many sides are a length of W? 2 of them. This side over here I've already got written, and that side as well. Then how many of them are 4W plus 1? This one over here. So I'm going to add all of those together. So W plus 4W plus 1 plus another 4W plus 1. And that should be equal to what? 62. Good job. There's a lot of lines on the left-hand side, so we'll put them together. So the W plus 4W plus 4W would be 10W plus 1 is 2. And I would subtract the 2. 60. Last step, divide by that 10. The width is 6. And what's so width? And and length. How much is the length? 25. Yeah, 24 plus 1. 4 times 6 is 24, plus 1 is 25. So the width is 6 and the length is 25. Because it asks for the dimensions, we needed both of those. It won't always ask for the dimensions. Sometimes it'll just ask for one of them. So you just pick or work out that. Number 6, I'm going to give you not a lot of us remember our formulas for trapezoids. The length of one base of a trapezoid is 19 less than 5 times the length of the other base if the trapezoid has a height of 18 feet and an area of that. So trapezoid, y'all remember what a trapezoid looks like? That's a trapezoid shape. The formula for area of a trapezoid is 1/2 base 1 plus base 2 times the height. So that's a form. We don't use that one quite nearly as often as we do rectangles and squares and triangles. But that is the formula for area of a trapezoid. Let's try to set up the scenario here, and I'll let you guys solve it as part of your homework. But it says the length of one base is 19 less than 5 times the length of the other base. So I'm going to let the shorter base in my picture be x. And then the bottom one is going to be that statement. Okay, the bottom base is 19 less than 5 times the length of the other base. So 19 less than 5 times the length of the other base. Or yeah, 5L, whatever variable you used. And then 19 less, so minus 19. And then it says the height of the trapezoid is 18 feet. Height is, they always make this little dotted line there, and that height is 18 feet. That's where that's coming from. So you would put the x and the 5x plus 9 in the place of these things in the parentheses, and the 18 in the place of the h. What goes in the place of the a? From our word problem. 477, and then solve that equation out of that. So there's your setup, a little help on that, because we don't do a lot with trapezoids. No, it doesn't. You can, whatever order you want to, it doesn't matter, because it's addition, and addition property of the commutative property of addition says you can swap the order and it doesn't change the answer. So it doesn't matter. You whichever one you want to is fine. So flip over there to the back. Let's look at let's see. Let's go down there to number 10. Okay. The sum of 4 consecutive integers is 222. So when you talk about consecutive integers, what does that mean? Yeah, one right after another. So if the first one was a 3, the next one would be 4, 5, 6, that idea. Okay. So when we try to set up an equation for this, if the first one, I call it x, what would the next one be? No, I don't think that way. Think, how do you get from 3 to 4? No, because to get from 3 to 4, it's plus 1, right? So the next one would be x plus 1. The third one would be x plus 2. And the fourth one would be x plus 3. So this is the first, second, third, and fourth integers. Okay, so that's the things that are going on there. If it said something about odd or even integers, and you pick x as the first one, how do you get to the, like, if it says odd integers and I pick 3 as the first one, what's the next odd integer? How do I get from 3 to 5? Plus 2. And how do I get from get from 3 to 7? Plus 4, plus 6. You got to skip a number in there. If it talks about even or odd, that's how you're going to set them up as plus 2, plus 4, ever how many you need out of that. Okay, so it says that these 4 consecutive integers added together, because it said sum, is 222. So I'm just setting it up. X plus 1 plus x plus 2 plus x plus 3 equals 2. Add those together. I got like terms. X, 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 and x. 4x plus 6 subtract 6 be 216. I'm going to divide by 4, right? 554 is what I got for the first one. So it says find the integers. So that means I got to list all 4 of them. So if the first one's 54, that's the next one. 56 and 57. And sometimes they'll throw a wrinkle in it and they'll say find the third integer. And they don't want all the answers, they just want the third one out of that. So sometimes with ACT they're kind of tricky like that. And guess what? The first one, the second one, and the fourth one are all answers too. But it wants the third one, so you got to be careful of that. So really, let's talk about some geometry there for number 7. It says that the 2 angles are complementary. What does that mean? Is there anybody in here who has not taken geometry yet? I don't think that's an issue in this class. I had that in the fall. We had a few folks that were taking Algebra 2 before geometry. What does it mean to be complementary in geometry? They add to be 90 degrees. Okay, so maybe make a note of that for number 7, that word complementary means add to be 90 degrees. And then number 9 talks about an isosceles triangle. What do we know about isosceles triangles? And maybe all right, 2 sides are equal, but also what else are equal? All the angles. So isosceles triangle, these 2 sides are congruent to one another, right? Or the same. Also, the base angles are the same as one another. Okay? So isosceles, 2 sides are the same and 2 angles are the same out of that. But all of the angles add up to be how much? 180, because it's still a triangle. Okay, so that information is needed. For number 9, I believe, is what you need there. So you know that isosceles means 2 sides are the same, but the 2 base angles are the same as well. So number 9, it says to find the measure of the vertex angle. The vertex angle is that one at the top of that isosceles triangle. The 2 at the bottom are called base angles. So the vertex angle is that one up at the top. So that's the one it's talking about there. So be careful as you're setting that one up. So here's what I've planned for today.